Week 5 is in the books, and it did not disappoint. Georgia versus Bama lived up to the hype. Now, it lived up to it a little bit belatedly because the first half was pretty much hot garbage. Alabama jumping to a 30-7 lead at halftime over Georgia. But the second half of that ball game was certainly one for the ages. It puts it in the instant classic category for this season. Now, a lot of questions were answered in Saturday night's game. The first question being, can Kirby Smart finally get over on Alabama? Answer, no. The second question, is Kalen DeBoer the real deal? Answer, yes. Now, Georgia fans are understandably upset, saying the season's over, getting hyperbolic, getting apoplectic. To them, I say, take a breath and get a grip. This is one loss. This is a tough loss, no doubt, but it is one loss on the road against your chief conference rival. In the 12-team playoff era, one loss does not an end to a season make. Where things get a little dicey, though, and where there is cause for concern, is the SEC title chase. Because while this game does not knock Georgia out of the college football playoff hunt in any way, it does make their quest to win the SEC title much more difficult. For the Bulldogs to make it to Atlanta, they're going to have to win out the rest of the way, and that's going to be quite the challenge. Primarily because the Bulldogs have both Texas and Tennessee left to play. So Georgia's going to have to be at their very best if they want to win the SEC championship, but I would certainly not say that their playoff hopes are dashed at all. Moving to the Big Ten, in what was a very entertaining game in its own right, Michigan comes out on top over Minnesota by a score of 27-24. Much more notable, though, than the level of quality of football was the level of quality of officiating in this game. If you didn't see this, towards the end of the game, Minnesota goes for an onside kick, and they recover and set themselves up nicely to get the go-ahead score to end the game. Well, it turns out the referees called an offside penalty for this onside kick. Unfortunately, though, I didn't really see any penalty at all. What I saw was Minnesota getting screwed over by the officials. So my heart goes out to the Minnesota fan base. You got screwed on this one. There's no doubt about it. Unfortunately, though, saying that and recognizing it doesn't do a lot for Minnesota as they begin to navigate the Big Ten schedule for 2024. Going back to the SEC, Texas wins their first conference game against Mississippi State at home. The score, 35-13, kind of belies how sloppy of a first half Texas played. They looked simply out of phase in all sections of the game, and that includes coaching. In the second half, though, the Horns came alive, led by redshirt freshman Arch Manning, who had a tremendous ball game, going 26-31 for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns. Arch looked phenomenal in this game, and he is readying himself for what could be an outstanding 2025 season. Speaking of first SEC victories, Oklahoma with a very impressive win on the road at Auburn. And I think it's safe to say that both Texas and Oklahoma can definitely hack it in the SEC. Putting a bow on Week 5, we actually go to the Friday night game, Virginia Tech at Miami. Talking about controversial calls and blown calls this weekend, I don't know how you overlook the ending of this game. And probably the best quote on this subject came from Booger McFarland, who essentially said that there wasn't enough evidence to make the call in the first place. More importantly, there wasn't sufficient evidence to overturn it on replay. So a total disaster for Virginia Tech, and honestly a stain on the officiating for college football as a whole. Having said that, despite some very spotty and questionable officiating, Week 5 is in the books. It was one for the ages. Certainly one of the most entertaining weekends of college football in a long time. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. Stay tuned for my SEC Power Rankings. They're coming up next. I'll see you soon next week to talk about Week 6. This is Kevin, saying God bless you. I'll talk to you later.